All right, let's get into some fan base check-in to close things out. I got 5 fan bases today that we've got to check in with. Some bad losses, some injuries. I know you guys, you're like, what are we doing, Joel? Help me out. Where do we go from here? Let's go. Let's start. Who do we got?
Notre Dame.
Okay. Notre Dame is panic time, folks. You might be thinking like, Joel, what, like that's a little overboard for you. Normally you're not like it. No. It's panic time. Marcus Freeman was a coordinator 2 years ago at a group of 5 school. He gets the job largely based on sentiment of the players, and that's fine. That's fine. But 0-3 to start. That's not good. They haven't played nearly as well as they need to play moving forward. Then they get their quarterback hurt. Now it's going to be Drew Pine moving forward because Tyler Buckner is going to be hurt for the rest of the year. Personnel-wise, I thought that they were going to be much better up front and on the offensive line more specifically, and they should be. But without a trigger man, without a quarterback, and a brand new head coach who's losing some of that positivity, this is panic time for Notre Dame. They've got to win, and they've got to win now. Why? Look at the rest of their schedule. Folks, they've already lost 2 games. I see them losing at least 3, maybe 4 more games this year. That's a lot. That's potentially 6 losses for the Irish in Marcus Freeman's first year after Brian Kelly had that wild run of success. So is it panic time? Yeah, it's panic time. You still have UNC, BYU, Clemson, USC. Both of those teams could wind up in the playoff. They've got Clemson, great defense. USC, great offense. UNC, North Carolina, they can score with anybody. BYU just beat a top 10 team in Baylor. It's panic time for the Irish, folks, whether you want to admit it or not. Yes, it's early, but boy, they need some wins, and they need some wins desperately, like they need their next breath of air. All right, who do we got next?
Texas A&M.
Panic. Panic time. Panic time. Why is it panic time, Joel? You have to win this week against Miami, or else where do you go? There's nowhere else to look. A&M has invested in facilities, as well as anybody out there, by the way. This fan base has stepped up in a huge way and supported this program. I mean, a massive way. That stadium, incredible. Facilities, incredible. NIL, probably best in the country, at least most aggressive. Fan base has done it. The support is there. Recruiting, as well as anybody. They just signed the best class in the history of recruiting. So the players are there. Oh, they're young. They're pretty talented. Other teams do just fine with young players, and they've recruited at a high level for a number of years. So what's going on? They paid Jimbo Fisher a lot of money. He's one of the only coaches out there to win a national championship. Folks, like Texas A&M, if they don't beat Miami, wow. So is it panic time? Yep. Sure is. That video, going all around the internet. A guy, yell leader, ripping on App State. App State kicked your ass. Wasn't particularly close. Probably closer on the scoreboard than it was on the field. Special teams touchdown kept them in it. They had 186 total yards. A&M did. A&M with Jimbo Fisher. So is it panic time? Yes, absolutely. Mario Cristobal is bringing a team that's better than App State, and A&M's got to win. This is as big of a game for A&M as they've had in a number of years. Remember, folks, for Texas A&M, they had the Manziel year, they had the COVID year. In between that's 10 seasons. Manziel year, COVID year, that's 2 of them. The other 8, they've at least lost 4 games. They've finished in the top 25 only twice, and they're 32-32 in SEC play. They're average. And yet they spin and act and have expectations as if they're going to go to the playoff and challenge in the SEC for a championship. It's not based on last week. More on that game tomorrow, by the way. I'm going to have a full breakdown of Texas A&M's offense, so make sure to come back on Thursday and check that out. Okay, who do we got next?
Texas.
Oh, this is a good one. Okay, and for Texas, this is a relax only because it's about the quarterback, right? I think that they would be very excited, but I'm just saying, like, relax a little bit, okay? You're probably gonna lose a game that you don't want to in the next month because of injuries. Quinn Ewers being down with that injury is no good. You know why? Why? Because he played great in the first quarter. I love the way he played. I loved the plan that they had. So Texas fans, you're just going to have to relax and kind of bear with it. This is the long game. It's still the long game for them. They've recruited really well. Why is that any different than Texas A&M? Well, because Sark's only in his second year, and it's totally different. In particular, because Texas didn't just lose to App State. So Texas is a big relax for me. Even if they lose in the next month, you're going to get your quarterback back, hopefully by Red River, and I still think this is a team that likely is in the Big 12 championship game. I think that they've got a chance to win the conference. I don't feel that way about A&M, in particular in that division. That's why for Texas, I'm a relax. All right, who do we got next?
Alabama.
Oh, Bama fans, you're ready to panic, and I'm going to tell you, relax, okay? Folks, and I know it's like it always surfaces every year. I can't remember which year it was, but I went on Colin Cowherd, and I was like, man, Alabama's got a Nick Saban problem. Dumbest thing I've ever said in my life. Dumbest thing. So let's not repeat that mistake. Nick Saban has adjusted and evolved better than any coach in college football. He's evolved on offense, and he will evolve this season. They will be better running the football. They will be better at wide receiver. And even if they're not more dynamic running downfield, they will find out what those guys can do, and they will get very good at it. Why? Because he's their head coach. I think Alabama is going to be just fine. Are there some concerns? Yes. But guess who's most concerned about that? Nick Saban. He's not a guy that's going to bury his head in the sand. He's going to address those issues head on, and Bama's going to be just fine. So Bama fans, relax. You escaped with a win. Your quarterback put a cape on his back. Bama's going to be just fine moving forward. All right, last one. We got time for one more. Who we got?
Nebraska.
Okay, so Nebraska, listen, everyone wants this to be panic time for Nebraska, but I'm telling you, Nebraska fans, sit tight. Sit tight. There's a little feather in your cap, okay? And here's why. Nebraska, I've heard a lot of people say that Nebraska is no longer a great job, but I think that it is. But here's why. Not in the sense that it is what it used to be, which is a preeminent power in college football, but that it's positioned perfectly in the current landscape of college football. Let me explain. If Trev Alberts would have fired Scott Frost this last offseason, before USC and UCLA made their move, before the Big Ten did their new multi-year media deal with Fox, CBS, and NBC, then he would have been looking for a coach that would have looked at that job and said, I don't know if that's a very good job, because they don't have a natural recruiting base. They haven't had much success clearly over the years, and I don't know if they're a great fit for the Big Ten. I don't know. It just, something's wrong with it. I'm not going to take it. So it would have been hard to get a guy like Dave Aranda or a guy like Matt Campbell. But now, all of a sudden, you go past this offseason, and here's what's happened in the offseason that is going to help Nebraska hire their next coach. Number one, USC and UCLA went to the Big Ten, which made them a power conference. So now everybody realizes to play at the highest level, you're likely going to need to be in the SEC or the Big Ten, in particular from a revenue standpoint. So one, that's a feather in their cap. Jim Harbaugh said no to the NFL and said basically like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to be at Michigan. Kind of the Mike Gundy style of like, I'm going to stop flirting with other jobs. I'm just going to be here. So that job likely not coming open. We don't feel like Ohio State is coming open. James Franklin signed a massive deal. He's not going anywhere. PJ Fleck is having success at Minnesota. He's not going anywhere. If there is an opening at Wisconsin, they're probably just going to hire the defensive coordinator, Jim Leonard, so you don't feel like that is going to be open. If you're Iowa yeah, you might move on from Kirk Ferentz, but there's a name out there that wouldn't take that job because it's in state, which is Matt Campbell. So now all of a sudden you start looking at it and you're like, okay, Nebraska is going to be one of the rare, really good jobs out there. And because of all of those things, they may be in a position where they would get a coach to come be their next head coach that they wouldn't have got last December. I was actually talking with a good friend of mine, and he said, like, I hear people bringing up Dave Aranda. Why would Dave Aranda do that? Maybe he won't, but he's going to have to think about it because of those reasons. Do you stick around in the Big 12 and just stay there with their new media deal? I don't know. Or do you go to the Big 10? So that's why, stand by, Nebraska fans. I think that this next hire for Trev Alberts could be really good. And I think it could be better than some in college football expect.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.